Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Green Flag. I'm your host, Lukas Wacker. With me, as always, we have Kyle Cushman. And welcome back to the Green Flag. It's been a little bit, couple of weeks off, of course, for the NASCAR summer break, but we are back for the remainder of the NASCAR season. And in this episode, we've got you covered for the Watkins Glen fantasy preview, as well as some cool news and notes that have happened over the past week and a half, 2 weeks or so since we took our little bit of a break. And we've had some pretty good racing action as well with the Hungarian Grand Prix last weekend to go into F1 summer break. So expect some content surrounding F1, maybe for 2022 stuff around the corner as well. And a quick shout out to all of you guys for 200 subscribers on the channel. Thank you so much for all your support recently. It's been tremendous, and we're glad that you guys are liking the content. We're going to keep it coming here for the remainder of 2021, that's for sure. So lots of fun stuff in store. But before we get into all the stuff that's in today's episode, how are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing great. Of course, the Olympics the last couple of weeks, both of us have been very, very busy with that. Yes. But as we're recording this morning, the Canadian women's team won Olympic gold in soccer, which is amazing for myself as a huge Canada soccer fan. I'm sure you've seen a couple of times on the show rocking the Canada soccer emblem. So a great day in that regard, but nice to finally be wrapped up with the Olympics coming to a close this weekend. Both of us are done with our duties as of the recording of this, and nice to get back in the swing of things of motorsports. Missed the Hungarian Grand Prix last week in terms of a preview and everything like that, but excited to be back this weekend. I know we missed a bit over the last couple of weeks, but lots to happen this week to talk about, and a very fun first time preview for us on the show for Watkins Glen as well, one of our favorite tracks.
Yeah, if you missed our track kind of tier list that we did at the beginning of the season, Watkins Glen made it to that top tier, and it is definitely deserving of a spot on that top tier. And yeah, as Kyle said, the first time that we are actually going to be previewing a Watkins Glen race on this channel and for this show entirely. Of course, missing in 2020 due to COVID, and 2019, it happened in the summer before the show was even born yet. So it's been a while, and we're very happy to break down the Watkins Glen weekend here with all three National Touring Series in action there in Watkins Glen, New York this upcoming weekend. But let's take a look at the news and notes that have happened recently over the past week or so that it's a little bit more current for you guys. And the biggest one is Trackhouse naming their second driver to partner Daniel Suarez at the number 99. They're going to be having a number one, which of course is from the Chip Ganassi Racing stable. And Ross Chastain is going to be stepping into the number one car for Trackhouse in 2022 to partner Daniel Suarez. So a nice number mix there, 1 to 99. Really cool that they did something like that. And no sponsors or crew chief was announced along with the Chastain announcement, but I assume that that's going to be happening a little bit over the next month, 2 months or so, or whenever they get the chance to refine those details there. But the big one here, Ross Chastain, going to be sticking around in the Cup Series in a pretty good ride, similar to what Chip Ganassi Racing is kind of in right now, just a little bit lower, but you expect them to take maybe that next step next season, but we'll see with the next gen car. But Ross Chastain, well-deserved to take this second seat, and it definitely looks like Kurt Busch then will be taking that second 2311 seat if they can secure a second charter for that team when they expand for 2022 in all reports. So it's an exciting time for Ross Chastain, the watermelon farmer from Florida. He's going to be sticking around in the Cup Series after a very good run of form over the past couple of months, specifically in that 42 car for Chip Ganassi Racing, and a great fit here for Trackhouse in 2022, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm super pumped for this one. Ross Chastain, he's done so much over his career to just try and get to this point. And then he finally gets here with Chip Ganassi Racing, and then they sell. And then it looks like maybe Trackhouse is going to go a different direction. But his recent form, I think, has kind of changed the narrative a little bit. Earlier this season, he was maybe underperforming out of the gate, as was kind of Chip Ganassi as a whole, as you saw with Kurt Busch being outside of the playoff picture as well. But over these last couple of months here, both Chastain and Kurt Busch have really stepped up their game. Kurt Busch especially, of course, getting the win and even being in a point situation in the playoffs at the point of his win as well. But even for Ross Chastain, maybe not as high profile as Kurt has been, but has slowly been ticking off those really solid results, especially on road courses as well. And I think he's shown over the course of the season the potential that he does have as an aggressive driver, but one that can get results out of a solid car. And we expect that to be what Trackhouse will be into next year and into the future, of course, taking over Chip Ganassi Racing and everything that they've got there. So don't know what to expect in terms of next year for a lot of teams, just being a new car. Don't really know what to expect in terms of performance level for a lot of these teams. But for Trackhouse, to end up with somebody like Ross Chastain, I think that's a really solid younger pair between Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez, two guys who have kind of had a battle in their careers a little bit, have proven that they can win at lower levels, but also have done the backmarker kind of struggle week to week kind of thing as well. So they kind of have that nice blend of having shown their talent at lower levels, but have also know the week to week struggle that I can take and are appreciative of kind of the opportunities they get. So it's going to be a fan favorite team with Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain there. It's two very, very likable guys in the garage area, just given their backgrounds and their history to make it to this point. And I'm excited to see what they can do going into next year. As you mentioned, keeping the one from Chip Ganassi Racing, but also the 1 in 99 is a nice little combo there. And I like the nod to the history of Chip Ganassi Racing there as well with the one car. I like that little touch, but very excited to see what Ross Chastain can do into next year. Found his footing this year in the Cup Series after a slow start. He's looked very, very strong on road courses recently as well. Maybe another strong result coming up this weekend at Watkins Glen with the announcement off his back, everything like that. But yeah, very excited for this one going into next season.
Yeah, the pressure's off him. And I think that's the big thing for him. He's always been kind of a guy that's been in limbo mode for a lot of the silly season stuff.
That's putting it lightly.
Yeah. And he's finally locked down something here in the summer months, which should bode a lot of confidence for him that he can just focus on the remainder of this season. And
I feel like this has got to be his first multi-year contract.
I believe so. He's always been a year-by-year basis, and he's just a guy that kind of bounces around every which way. But it seems like he's going to be finding a new home here with Trackhouse for the foreseeable future. And one final note on this deal is that he doesn't really bring any sponsorship with him. There's nothing that's coming over from Chip Ganassi Racing, so we'll see what they do for funding on that car. And Ross Chastain has been no slouch or has had no shortage of drama with sponsors in his previous history, of course, with DC Solar and everything like that. So an interesting kind of combo here. I'm a very likable guy, as you said, and a very smart move, I think, for Daniel Suarez to have a partner like Ross Chastain here with Trackhouse. Good on Justin Marks to secure something like this. And it's not like the biggest names in the sport by any means, but it's a solid duo that can get you some results here and there and can get you some growth in the team and progress up to the field and hopefully get into that top 15 battle on a very consistent basis, starting maybe even next season. So congratulations to Ross Chastain, though. That's huge for him, and that he's kind of solidified himself a spot in the Cup Series here for at least a couple of seasons. So I think we'll move on to the next little bit of news here, Kyle. The NASCAR Championship Banquet Weekend is returning to Nashville come the end of this season on November 30th to December 2nd weekend. Of course, last year due to COVID, there was no championship banquet where we got to celebrate Chase Elliott and Sheldon Creed, and of course, Austin Cindric for their championships. Of course, that's a big kind of thing for the champion to be kind of put on the pedestal and well-deserved in front of their peers and everybody within the industry. So glad that's making its return this season. We'll see what that looks like come November time with everything going on with COVID, but I'm sure they'll handle it appropriately. And of course, they're going to be going back to requiring masks at the track now in inside venues as well. Outside, they are okay not to wear masks, but due to the Delta variant increasing its case numbers day by day, they have to take the proper precautions. So good to see NASCAR doing that on that front. So good to see NASCAR returning to Nashville, of course, a market that they're really trying to solidify long-term here, Kyle.
Yeah, it's not too surprising. They've made it pretty clear that they want to make Nashville a destination for NASCAR. And with IndyCar going there this weekend on the streets of Nashville, with NASCAR going there to the super speedway, with all the talk about Nashville Fairgrounds and everything like that. And then the banquet, of course, on top of that, they've made it very clear that they want Nashville to be a newer destination for NASCAR, and returning the banquet there is just kind of that extra little cherry on top in addition to all the racing and stuff as as well. So it's kind of the perfect blend of being like a party town that also has more of that southern flair than like a Vegas does in terms of being like a NASCAR town, even though if you think about it, NASCAR's been to Vegas more recently than Nashville, which is kind of funny, but it makes a lot of sense to go to Nashville there for the banquet and everything. So it's nice to see them return there coming up later this year.
It's kind of like the Vegas of the Midwest a little bit, I guess, or to an extent. I don't know if I'm stretching on that. Maybe anybody from Nashville can back that up or go against that. But
Broadway, there's definitely got some Vegas-y vibes.
Yeah, definitely. With all the neon lights and everything.
Yeah, you
like
replace
that,
the casinos with music and stuff, and it's basically same place.
That's not a bad trade-off, I'd say, for for the sport that it is. But really excited to see NASCAR going back to Nashville, and just really looking forward to hopefully getting Nashville Fairgrounds on the schedule here in the near future. It did well for obviously SRX in their debut season, and it's just such a great racetrack. I think it would do exponentially well for short track racing, and it would rival, I think, the Bristol track that we obviously have come to know and love when they actually are racing on the concrete there, not the dirt. So it's going to be a fun environment to see how NASCAR kind of plays this Nashville kind of tune that they're going with here over the next couple of years there. So we'll move on to the next little bit here. Quite a wild and stacked Truck Series field here this weekend, Kyle. AJ Allmendinger's in this weekend for Chase Purdy due to COVID, and the number 23 for GMS. Paul Menard is back in the Truck Series this weekend for Thor Sport in the 66. Taylor Gray makes his Truck Series debut for David Gilliland Racing in the number 17. Lots and lots of people to keep your eye on. Casbro as well.
The ARCA winner is going to be in the 51 truck as well.
Yep, looks very good. Of course, just winning prior to our recording here, beating out Austin Hill, I believe it was, and Ty Gibbs there at Watkins Glen. So quite a championship battle we've got going on there, surprisingly, between Ty Gibbs and Corey Heim. Glad to see that there is a little bit of a battle down in the ARC Menard series. So lots of fun names, though, Kyle. Anybody that catches your eye, really, this is the regular season finale. So this is a big one for the Truck Series. It's not quite the bubble battle we were hoping for coming into this weekend, being 40 points. But when we saw this on the schedule being announced that they're returning for the first time in many, many years for the Truck Series to Watkins Glen, we all had this kind of check marked on our calendar, circled on our calendar as one to watch. And going to be a fun one, despite not really having a bubble battle unless we have a surprise winner. But anybody that's standing out for you here this weekend, of course, Taylor Gray making his Truck Series debut, as I said, lots of fun names in the field.
Yeah, it's going to take a big swing for somebody to point their way in any kind of circumstance. It would basically take a Stuart Friesen crash in the opening laps and finishing dead last, and either Derek Kraus or Tyler Ankrum winning a stage or getting two very good stage results and then winning the race. So it's extremely unlikely that that's going to happen. But I will say that Tyler Ankrum has shown pretty well on road courses at times in his career, looked very good at COTA, for example, earlier this year. So it's not entirely out of the question that somebody like a Tyler Ankrum, who's currently below that cut line, could go and potentially win. And then if that happens, floodgates are open because it's very, very close between Friesen, Smith, and Hocevar for that like 8th through 10th spot. And so if there is a surprise winner, all of a sudden it just becomes bananas. But I don't think that'll happen, just given some of the names in the field. Obviously, Austin Hill showed very well in the ARCA race and has slowly been improving as a road course driver as well throughout his career. Todd Gilliland won earlier this year at COTA on a road course as well. You've obviously got your names.
Road course.
Exactly, Ben Rhodes as well, John Hunter Nemechek. AJ Allmendinger being the road course ringer in for Chase Purdy, who's out with COVID. But you've also got guys like Kaz Gralla in the field. You've got the young guys like we mentioned. So it's a very fun field as the Truck Series returns to Watkins Glen for the first time in a very long time, which is going to be great fun because Watkins Glen, as we showed in our track tier list, is an A-tier track. And so excited to have everybody there this weekend, ARCA included, and should be a fun Truck Series race, even if the bubble battle for that last playoff spot isn't exactly close.
Best road course on the Cup Series calendar by far. So looking forward to having them return to the track here this week. And it's honestly always a track that I kind of miss because it seems like it's an awkward weekend. It's like my mom's birthday weekend and there's like a whole bunch of different things going on during this time in August. So I'm like, always not watching it live for some reason. Either we're doing something or something comes up. So I'm happy that I'm going to be home this weekend, actually working the race. So I actually can have a requirement, or I have to sit down and watch the race.
Just had to get a job where you have to watch it, so you have the excuse.
Essentially,
right?
Exactly. We can't go anywhere, Mom. It's my job. So looking forward to this weekend. As you can probably sense our enthusiasm, it's going to be a really fun weekend.
I'm pumped. It's been way too long since we've been to the Glen.
100%. We got a couple more news and notes here before we get into the fantasy preview. Next little bit here, according to multiple reports, namely Adam Stern, it is looking likely that the numbers on the driver's side doors are going to be moved, but looking to be moved forward rather than backwards, which was kind of the tested out at the All-Star race last season at Bristol, of course. I'm actually a bigger fan of them moving it forward than moving it backwards. Yes. I think it's going to look a little bit more clean, and they can have an entire back section of the car to work with, since the front, you're a little bit more limited than the back section. So I'm much more satisfied with the move. They're going to move it. We're going to move it forward. I believe we talked about this earlier when they said, we were thinking, if we're going to move it, we're going to move it forward, then moving it back to the rear tires, we'll move it to the front tires more. So it's not going to look as bad. I don't think it's not going to be as big of a change. Of course, I would just prefer to leave it as they are, because I think it looks fine and I really like the way it looks. But if it's going to move somewhere, they're going to move it forward. And it seems like that'll be a more pleasing across the industry wide. If they're going to do something, I think fans can get behind that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think when we last talked about it, I was like, either move it forward so you have all the space,
or put on the quarter panel
all the way back. It was like, don't do like this half thing where it's like slightly to the side and then you just have less room on both sides. Like, it was just strange, the original idea. But the thing to remember about this decision is that it's for the new car, and the new car has that shorter space on the quarter panel, and so you don't have as much room for ad space and stuff like you do with this current car. So with that in mind, moving the number forward, with some of the mock-ups and stuff that I've seen on NASCAR Twitter and whatnot, it's not going to look super dramatically different. And as with the current car and everything like that, you're going to have paint schemes that look great with it, and you're going to have paint schemes that look terrible with it. Yeah. And so is it something that like I'd love them doing and think it's a great idea? No, but if it's going to result in more companies being willing to come in terms of having that ad space and whatnot on the quarter panel, having more room to do things like that, it's not like you have the contingency stickers and everything like that anymore. So it's not the end of the world. I'm just glad that they're moving it slightly forward, because then it maintains more of that natural look than moving it back, because I think that would look really awkward and dumb. What I will say, though, is that for a race car to look good, the number doesn't have to be super prevalent. You look at F1, numbers aren't that prevalent. You look at supercars and some of their great paint schemes, the numbers are basically non-existent on those, other than like a sticker on the windshield. So a race car doesn't need the numbers to be great, but with the lack of full season sponsors and whatnot, the numbers are that indicator for fans as to who's who. Yeah. And so for that reason, the numbers still need to be very prevalent. And so I'm glad that they're moving it forward rather than backwards, because I think backwards just would have looked absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, at least they did that, you know.
And like, for example, like a series like the Pinty series, you don't have to have the number central on the door or anything like that. There are cars such as Rafael Lessard, who went back to back last Sunday night at Sunset Speedway. Like, for example, his paint scheme had the number on the rear quarter panel. So there's been NASCAR series that have done it. It looks good. It's just about doing it the right way, and having it slightly off center to the back would have looked really dumb. So glad they're moving it forward at the very least.
As long as this results in more sponsorship or a better sponsorship market for NASCAR and the teams, then I'm good with the decision. But if we don't see that dramatic increase that they are presented,
I don't know. I think it's unrealistic to think that there's going to be like this dramatic increase. I think it's more that there will be more space for a bigger logo, or more space for multiple logos in one area, rather than what it would be if they were to keep it in the current place for this next gen car, where it's less space on the quarter panel and then trying to tuck it in front of the number or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. It just seems like such a stressful and drawn out process for just moving the damn numbers back or forward. Like, I think we could have all told you NASCAR. I don't know if it needed to be a very in-depth dive into the analytics and everything like that and what's going to do better. I think it's a pretty self-explanatory process, but we love to keep things complicated as we do with NASCAR.
Just like as simple as it can be, just let the teams decide. Just let the paint scheme be what it is. Just don't mandate where the number needs to be. Just mandate that the number has to be a certain size and be on the car. I think that's just like the easiest way to do it. Because then if the teams want to keep it central, they can keep it central with the paint scheme and whatnot. Just let the teams and let the paint scheme decide where the number goes like that. I think that's just the easiest way to do it.
No, we need rules, Kyle. We need enforcements here. It's a very strict NASCAR. There's no fun and games with NASCAR. We can't experiment. Are you nuts?
Yeah, there's no fun and games except for the championship format.
Oh, burn. Oh, here I'm sorry, it is. Here it is. Oh, baby.
I'm sorry.
Oh, baby.
I'm sorry.
That was a good one. I'll give you credit on that.
Thank you.
But
2 weeks off and I'm still better. Don't worry.
Yeah, there you go. You're still on it. But yeah, that'll do it for the number stuff, the conversation. Yeah, as Kyle also pointed out there, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Raphael Lessard, a former guest on this show, swept the opening weekend at Sunset Speedway in the NASCAR Pinty Series weekend opener, doubleheader weekend there on the Sunday. Great to see him do well in his kind of off series kind of events here where he's not running for the full-time points championship, unfortunately for the Pinty Series, because he honestly would probably win that series very handedly given his experience and his talent level. Looking forward to hopefully seeing him back in the Truck Series next season in whatever capacity, or getting some sort of ride in 2022, because he's definitely deserving. If he can secure that sponsorship, and results like this are going to go a long way for him if he can continue to win on a consistent basis. And in a Pinty Series that is, you know, at a pretty high level in terms of competition and what it can bring to the table. It's not under the rug kind of thing. It's a noteworthy series, of course, up in here in Canada. That's going to go a long way for his success here in the short term to try and get him back to the Truck Series where he ultimately deserves to be. A former winner in the Truck Series. Let's not forget, like, this guy can win down there. So really great to see Raphael Lessard have some success here while his season was thrown upside down and everything like that. So good on him, Kyle.
Yeah, and it was originally just going to be a one weekend thing, but with the 2 wins, he's going to be coming back next weekend at Trois Rivières, one of his home tracks as well. In the Pinty Series was going to be a one weekend thing, filling in for Donald Teach, who was injured and couldn't race in that first weekend, but going to go back in a second Teach car next weekend at Trois Rivières. Excited to see what he can do on the road course as well there. But yeah, Raphael Lessard, love seeing him succeed here. Yeah. He's now got 3 wins out of 4 Pinty Series starts. Like, the guy is just otherworldly when you get him in kind of these circumstances here. So again, hopefully these wins and results here in Canada can bring on more partners, even just Canadian ones and whatnot, to help him kind of flesh out that full schedule into the future here. But yeah, very excited for him to get that win, or 2 wins, I should say, at Sunset last weekend. And hopefully he can bring that momentum into Trois Rivières next weekend.
Definitely. The last little bit of news here is not on the NASCAR front at all. We're going to give a shout out to MotoGP.
Yes.
This guy is absolutely deserving of it. Valentino Rossi. If you don't know the name, I don't know where you've been living, but even as a guy that doesn't watch MotoGP, I know who Valentino Rossi is. A 7-time MotoGP champion. Just an unbelievable spokesperson for the sport, a worldwide name on the front. You probably know him a little bit if you're a big Lando Norris fan. Lando Norris is obviously a huge Valentino Rossi fan himself, so hence the neon yellow helmet to kind of commemorate Rossi's career. He's going to be retiring at the end of the 2021 season, so not having the great season right now, of course, as he's kind of declined in his performance as the years have gone by, but one of the greatest, if not the greatest MotoGP driver of all time. And we definitely have to give him a shout out here. Has 89 victories in his career, just an absolutely insane number for MotoGP. And I can't believe that he's at 199 podiums on top of that. Just crazy numbers and incredible success, and wishing him all the best in retirement once the season does come to a close. But we had to give Valentino Rossi a very well-deserved shout out on this episode, Kyle.
Yeah, he's one of the greatest of all time in motorsports in general. Like, this is a guy that was so good on two wheels that Ferrari gave him a test and Red Bull gave him tests in a Formula One car. And he performed very well in those as well. And if things went differently, he could have very easily ended up switching the two wheels for four and ended up having seasons in Formula One. Like, this is one of the most talented riders, drivers, anything in motorsports history. And it's going to be a sad day at the end of the season when he does ride his final race in MotoGP. But as you mentioned, just an absolutely historic career in MotoGP, many championships, many wins, many podiums. And even at the age of 42, now he's still moderately competitive. And just like 3 years ago, he finished third in the championship at the age of 39. And this is very much a young man's sport in motorcycle racing. So one of the greatest to ever do it. Going to be a sad day at the end of the season. And just one of the greatest of all time, and definitely should cherish the rest of the season while we do get to see him while he's still active.
I honestly don't know how the people who compete in MotoGP do what they do. Like, it just
they're insane.
It blows my mind. They're a different breed, you know, like
them and rally drivers are the two most underrated riders, drivers in motorsports. The stuff that they do. I'd even say in
sports in general. Like, it doesn't get enough credit. Like, the safety or the lack thereof in some cases, for specifically MotoGP
cases,
is spectacular, that these guys are willing to put their bodies and their lives on the line, essentially. Like, when we talk about NASCAR and Formula One,
moderately often in MotoGP, like we've had some in lower series over the last couple of years. So it's absolutely something that's extremely dangerous, and takes a different kind of person to be able to do that, and not only just do it, but do it at that kind of level for as long as Valentino Rossi has. So definitely should appreciate one of the greats coming to the end of the season.
Yeah. And, you know, like, this is for MotoGP fans, this is basically for NASCAR fans, this is the equivalent to like a Jimmy Johnson kind of retiring here. Just a huge kind of spokesperson for the sport, a big figure in the sport, well known across all levels of motorsports. It's just going to be a bittersweet ending to his career, of course, by the time the season wraps up at the end of 2021. So wanted to give him a shout out, but that'll do it for the news and notes on today's episode. Fantasy time once again, Kyle. I don't know.
I really hope you've used these 2 weeks to kind of regroup here.
Well, saying that, if you are just tuning in for a new subscriber, or you haven't been to the channel before, welcome to the fantasy segment where I lose and Kyle wins. And that has been the case for 12 consecutive races, as I cannot believe the bad luck I've had, specifically at New Hampshire, where it's raining, and the two guys I have in my lineup, and specifically the one guy that I kind of took a risk on putting in, Kyle Busch, the pole sitter, wrecks on lap 6 because NASCAR was absolutely asleep at the wheel and did not throw a caution for the rain on the track, because the pace car driver, Brett Bodine, says that the track was clear. So
just a reminder, that's 1 of 12.
That's 1 of 12. I should have beat you at Nashville. Chase Elliott gets disqualified.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Okay. When this
I should have beat you at Homestead, but you know,
when this ship turns around on you, I can't wait for me to go on a run here, and I think it starts here this weekend, because I've got so many damn usages.
A run for you is just winning once.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Just takes one, buddy. Just takes one. I just want the streak to end here, and I feel extremely confident coming into this weekend at Watkins Glen. I gotta say, but I don't know what you're thinking. I give you a hard
time, but you have had insanely bad luck these last few weeks. Like, even like Alex Bowman cutting a tire and at Road America, and like everything that could possibly go wrong has gone wrong. But it's at the point now where if I win 2 races the rest of the way in fantasy, I at least tie you. So it's definitely been some tough sledding recently. But even with it being 12 straight, like, I think I'm only up by just 140 points on the overall still. So it's been extremely close. But yeah, I do think that we'll have very similar lineups here for Watkins Glen, though.
The big thing that's different about this road course this weekend is that we don't have the Austin Cindric and the AJ Allmendinger coming in from the Xfinity Series this weekend.
Yep.
It's all the Cup Series guys that we have access to. I believe both of those guys are going to be in at the Indy road course next weekend, so they'll probably be in our lineups there, given their success so far. But for this weekend here at Watkins Glen, we're going with the guys that are the usual suspects in the Cup Series that are going to be running for the full-time points. So we're getting down to it at the end of the regular season here. 4 races left before the playoffs. Very, very intense stuff for a lot of these guys. And of course, with the Eric Almirola victory at New Hampshire, that stunned the entire competition in the Cup Series. I don't know where that came from. I don't know where he found this performance, but congratulations to Eric Almirola, who we've been extremely harsh on, and for good reason on this show. He upset all the haters and the doubters, and he's into the playoffs by some miracle based on this win and you're in format. So there is a flaw with it, definitely, when you look at the performance of what he's had so far this season and how he's into the playoffs right now.
Touch it.
I know, but I did want to address it before we get into the fantasy stuff. But that leaves the bubble battle now extremely tight between the RCR teammates of Tyler Reddick and Austin Dillon. So going to be an intense battle to the end of this season. Of course, Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick are still not quite locked in. Denny Hamlin's going to lock himself in on points, I'm sure of that. But Kevin Harvick, if he has a couple of bad weeks here, could be in a difficult situation. But given the road course prowess of Austin Dillon and Tyler Reddick, I think he should probably feel pretty safe going into the final 4 weeks before the playoffs at Darlington. So without further ado, Kyle, you lead us off for fantasy here at Watkins Glen. I'm looking forward to this one. What are you going to start us off with?
I mean, it's obvious who I start us off with, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's obvious. It's Chase Elliott. Like, the guy is just so like, even if the road courses haven't been as dominant as maybe we thought they would be this season, even though they kind of they've been dominated by Chase Elliott to a certain extent, but it hasn't been like the blow the entire competition away, sweep everything, like maybe some of us unrealistically expected going into this year. Watkins Glen is that track for Chase Elliott. It's been such great battles with Martin Truex Jr., getting his first career win, getting that monkey off his back, having, I believe, the first perfect road course race where you sweep both stages and win the race, which is something that is especially difficult with the pit strategy and everything like that goes into stage breaks and stuff like that. So Chase Elliott, all season long, we've been saving the usages for road courses, and we get them here coming to the end of the regular season. So Chase Elliott, absolutely my leadoff guy for my team. And I've got 3 usages left on him. One of those absolutely being used here at Watkins Glen.
How many usages did you just say? How many?
3.
You got, okay, same. Chase Elliott, of course, going to be in my lineup as well.
Yeah.
The last 2 races here, he's won. So I don't see any reason why you wouldn't put him in. And he's led a whopping 132 laps led over those 2 races. And let's not forget, there's only 90 laps per Watkins Glen race.
Yeah. And for whatever it matters, if it does for you, he also leads the Cup Series in points gained at road courses this year as well, with a 42.75 average per race.
If there was any doubt, I think those numbers should help.
If there was any doubt, I don't think I have to bust out the numbers for Chase Elliott here, but if I do, there they are.
Yeah, he starts 11th on Sunday as well. So going to be interesting to see how quickly he works his way up through the field this time around. Usually starts at very high up the field when we are starting here at Watkins Glen with qualifying. But on this occasion, of course, due to his kind of lack of performance at New Hampshire, he's definitely down the totem pole in terms of where he's going to be starting, but it shouldn't take too long before Chase Elliott is back up there. And we've seen that throughout the season. He hasn't quite come out of the gates flying, but he does methodically work his way up. So it's probably not going to be a 60-point weekend for Chase Elliott, but you can basically bet that he's going to be in contention for the win.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course at Road America, we saw him start from the back and come all the way up. So 11th is nothing for him based off of last time.
Exactly. And there's plenty of opportunity for pit strategy at road course as we've seen. So I don't think it'll take long for Chase Elliott to get up there.
And that's something to keep in mind as well, because it's going to be interesting to see who takes those stage points and who goes for the pit strategy and whatnot. Because we saw last time out at Road America where Tyler Reddick came out and had the most points of the weekend, even though he wasn't necessarily like the top 5 guy all race long or anything like that.
Just played the stage point game.
He got the stage points and had a solid top 10 finish with that as well. And for that was a good fantasy play. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind as well, because some of these guys that maybe aren't the number one race favorites might play that point strategy and end up being very good fantasy plays as well.
Definitely. So yeah, Chase Elliott is my first selection, as is Kyle's. And I'm sure you probably have the next guy in. Martin Truex Jr. is in my lineup. I've got 2 usages left on the 19 car, and it's unfortunate that I kind of had to use them last time out at New Hampshire with the issue on lap 6. But 2 usages left. I still feel comfortable with him in the kind of last remaining stretch here at that usage, at that usage number. Of course, finishing second to Chase Elliott both of the last 2 races here. So has been very, very close, just right on the verge of missing out on that victory here at Watkins Glen. Only has 5 laps led over the last 2 races, but that's because Chase Elliott has basically led every other lap. So he starts 9th on Sunday as well. So just that little bit better track position than Chase Elliott. Hasn't had the 2021 in terms of road course results we were expecting from Martin Truex Jr., but he's probably going to be in contention here. I don't know if he's going to be in the race win conversation. He'll be top 5, I'd say, but being up there with the Hendrick guys and maybe even like a Kyle Busch or a Joey Logano might be a little bit too much to ask given the results prior in this season on the road courses. But this is a really good place for Martin Truex Jr. It has been his entire career. He has an average finish over his career of 10.64, so a top 10 average finisher in his career here at Watkins Glen. So no doubt in my mind that he's going to be a very serious contender. We'll see if he can actually get the job done, though, and actually fight in the top 2 or 3, which has been a little bit scarce of recent results here in that summer stretch here where they've kind of struggled.
Yeah, Truex has been disappointing on the road courses this year. You can remove Coda because that was complete fluke, but the Daytona road course, he kind of cost himself wheel hopping into turn 1 on one of those late restarts. But Sonoma, he was good, but wasn't contending for the lead or win like we maybe thought he would. And Road America, he kind of was a little bit out to lunch the entire weekend and still got a top 10, but wasn't at all in the conversation for the top 5 or win or anything like that the entire weekend. So for Truex, if they're to turn around on the road courses this year, Watkins Glen is the place that they're going to do it. I will add the caveat, though, that the last time that we were at Watkins Glen, Cole Pearn was still crew chief of Martin Truex Jr. So that is a big question mark as to whether the Cole Pearn setups and stuff were just that good for Truex that he could be that good. What's going on with James Small, because the road course results haven't been as good this year. But if it's going to turn around with James Small and everything like that on road courses this year, and just kind of their luck in general on road courses is going to be this weekend. So I've got him in there as well. I've got, let's double check. Yeah, I've got 3 usages left on him as well. Again, a guy that I've been saving for the road courses for maybe a little bit regrettably this season, just because that early stretch,
you played him more earlier.
So good. Kind of wish I played him a little bit more there, but with some of the stuff like Coda, I have saved a usage here there. Do have the extra ones coming down the end of the stretch. So he's got to be in the lineup just because of how good he's been here in the past. I don't know if he maybe reaches that same peak as you kind of mentioned as well, but he's obviously going to be one of those names that is in that conversation for the win, at least going into things.
Definitely. You go with your next one here, number 3.
Next one, number 3 for myself, and keeping it nice and chalk for this first little bit. Joey Logano is my next entry. Has been very strong on the road courses this year. Was a little bit quieter at Road America, but I'll let the one pass a little bit here. Has had the second most points gained this season on road courses. Had a great run at the Daytona road course, almost won the race, finished second, had a very strong run at Circuit of the Americas, and had a strong run at Sonoma as well. And this is somebody that's had a bit up and down career on road courses, but this year the form's been very good. This team in general has put a ton of emphasis on the 750 horsepower package, and I think that's carried over from the regular ovals package into some road course success as well for this team with this package. And so Joey Logano, again, he's had up and down success on road courses to this point in his career, but I think the form this season, Road America, maybe a little bit excluded, has been too good to kind of overlook. And for Joey Logano, I've got 2 usages left, but again, given kind of where they've been at this season, I feel fairly confident going with some of the more veteran drivers this weekend at a road course like Watkins Glen, where they have the experience versus Indianapolis in a week's time, where we have the practice and everything like that. So the advantage that drivers like Joey Logano or Martin Truex Jr., Chase Elliott have over some of the younger guys that maybe could be some value plays, I think is going to be more prevalent here at Watkins Glen than it will in a week's time. So Joey Logano also in my lineup.
Yep, I'm going to match you on that. No surprise here. I've had him basically tagged for this race for quite some time. I think he's an underrated guy here at Watkins Glen. Has had some poor results the last couple of times we've been here, but I don't know if that's necessarily by his own fault. I think there was some mechanical issues and stuff like that that have halted his success here at Watkins Glen. But he is a former race victor here back in 2015. So he has had success
again, that
here.
Speaks to the kind of up and down that it's been.
Exactly. I've got 3 usages left on the 22 car.
Okay.
Average finish left or average finish in his career here at Watkins Glen, because I didn't want to look at the last couple of times he'd been here. In his career, it's a 16.91 average finish, but the 1 victory and 3 top 5s have kind of led me to having a little bit more of a positive outlook, and his success so far this season on road courses in the 750 horsepower package is a no-brainer for me this weekend. And he starts second. Very, very good track position for the 22 car. They are a team that usually goes for stage points as well. So hopefully he's up there in the mix for a stage victory in that early portion of the race if all things go according to plan. Of course, it's a Penske 1, 2, 3 come Sunday as well at the start of the grid. So they're going to have plenty of forces up at the front of the field to try and block everything that is behind them. And you know those Penske cars, they are pretty good at trying to keep everything behind them, unless it's Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski on the final lap of the Daytona 500. So Joey Logano, third entry into my lineup.
And just finally here on Joey Logano, another important point that I forgot is we don't have any of those 750 ovals the remainder of this regular season. We've got 2 road courses, 550 package race at Michigan, and then Daytona as well. So if you've got 1 usage, maybe you consider which road course you want to play it on. But if you've got 2 or more, I think you definitely look at the 2 road courses as being the value plays. Maybe you stretch it to Daytona, but that is such a wild card that maybe you feel comfortable about getting some value elsewhere. Definitely wouldn't have them as a play at Michigan, just given kind of the form that they've been in with this 550 package this season, to say the least. But Joey Logano, absolutely a play on the road courses here, especially with the remainder of this regular season.
Yeah, for sure. Next guy.
I think this is where it starts to get more interesting.
Well, I think for you, I think you're very limited here. And I'm curious to see.
I say that just because of usage situations. I think number 4, it gets more interesting with usages.
Yeah, that's why I'm going with a guy that I have 3 usages left on, unfortunately, due to New Hampshire, Kyle Busch. I could not be more confident in Kyle Busch this weekend if I tried. This is going to be a very good weekend for Kyle Busch. This is a track that he has had so much success at, and he kind of just blows it either by the team or some sort of mistake, or he gets into some sort of scuffle with somebody. Yeah. And there is a lot of different things that have prevented Kyle Busch from having like 4 wins at this track. I would say he's only got the 1. So
it is kind of crazy to think about that. He's only got the 1.
Yeah. 2008 was the last time he won at Wacker. No, 2. Sorry. He's got 2 wins here. Excuse me. 2013 and 2008. So the last time he won here was 2013. It's been a very, very long time for Kyle Busch since he's won here, but he's been in contention basically every single weekend. And if he didn't have problems, I think the last 2 times, whether that was the William Byron scuffle last time out and the Bubba Wallace thing.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And the time prior to that, he got he had the fuel issue on pit road.
Knob. And I forgot about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Man.
Here we go.
Sorry.
Save your Kyle Busch opinions for yourself, because this is a Kyle Busch hate-free zone right now. I'm on the clock. So I've got 3 usages left on Rowdy. Average finish of the last 2 times we've been here is 7th. I think the 2018 race was where he was, of course, Chase Elliott's first career victory. He was the guy that could have rivaled Chase Elliott in that race based off of pace. He actually was ahead of Chase Elliott at the time of the 3rd stage break, but then had a fuel issue that prevented him from competing. He drove up from about the mid-20s to 3rd on that final run because it went green the final stage. So was an incredible comeback for him there. Just a methodical driver on the road courses, has been that way very, very much the entire season. And I think he's going to be one to be reckoned with. The only pause on him this weekend, he starts 20th due to finishing last at New Hampshire. So he's going to have to work his way up to the field, keep his nose clean. That would be nice. If that would be just one thing I ask of Kyle Busch in the opening part of this race, keep it clean. Don't force anything. You're going to get up to the front. You have a fast enough car. He's got 31 laps of the second most out of anybody behind Chase Elliott, of course, over the past 2 races here specifically. So this is a huge weekend for Kyle Busch. I think he's going to do very, very well. And it's going to be, I think, Chase Elliott's main competitor to victory lane here this weekend in Watkins Glen, New York. So he is my 4th selection for my lineup.
The one thing that gives me pause with Kyle Busch this weekend is that pit strategy game. And something where I see that team probably punting on the stage points and needing a good finish to get that good points haul. So I do have some concern with that a little bit, but I've got the 1 usage left, and I am going to put him in the lineup this weekend.
You're not going to save him for the 550? Holy smokes.
I'm not, because I feel pretty good about some of the names that I have available later on for Michigan. So for Kyle Busch, I wanted to have that extra one for Michigan. But with the way that the form has been recently, I ended up playing a little bit heavier than I maybe anticipated. It's obviously worked out pretty well because I've won 12 straight races. But I honestly, going into this weekend, I thought I was going to save him for Michigan, but I ended up looking at the usages that I have. And I think that it's better for me to use a Kyle Busch usage at Watkins Glen, or at least put him in the lineup and give me the option to play him versus saving him for Michigan. So for myself, reiterating a lot of what you said, Kyle Busch has been great here. He's been great on road courses this season. His average points haul is dragged down because of the Daytona road course. But if you exclude that, he's got an average points haul of 39 points the last 3 road course races, all of which inside the top 10, and some very strong results. Coda would have been even better if it wasn't for the weird timing of the pit strategy, and then the race being called because of rain, everything like that. Sonoma was a very good run. Road America top 10 there as well. So feel good about Kyle Busch this weekend. Mainly a defensive play on my part. I look at these next upcoming races, and I feel like Watkins Glen could be that one where Kyle Busch has that big enough points haul over the rest to where, or good enough finish over the rest to where I need to play him here this weekend. It's going to be tough to play defense against the 3 usages that you've got left on Kyle Busch here. But I feel good about him this weekend versus the usages that I've got for some of the other drivers that I have, like for example, like a Brad Keselowski or Ryan Blaney. I'd feel more comfortable with them using them somewhere else versus a Watkins Glen. So as risky as it may be, putting him in the lineup here with that 1 usage left, going to be very, very interesting to see whether I do end up using him if they don't get the stage points, stuff like that. But I feel like I got to play defense here at a track that he's been so talented at.
Alrighty. I think you got one more here, and then
I have one more. I wanted to see if you had anything to add in after.
No,
I did match
I'm satisfied with my Kyle Busch statement. I think he's going to be good.
Okay. To number 5 now, and I think I'll go with this one first. And this is a guy
for the big finale here, folks.
Well, it's mainly playing a little bit of defense because I don't want to get boxed into a scenario where we have like the same 6, and so I have the last pick, so I have to pivot. Don't want to necessarily do that. So I actually am going to change it. I'm going to go with this guy first. Got 3 usages left. Again, this isn't a guy that I thought that I was going to be super heavy on this year, but it surprised me a little bit. And that's Alex Bowman. He's been very consistent on the road courses this season. Of course, the unfortunate scenario at Road America prevented him from getting another top 10. But with that, had that not happened, for starters, you would have won that weekend, but he would also be the only person in the Cup Series to have top 10s at each road course so far this season. Top 10 at the Daytona road course, top 10 at Circuit of the Americas, very strong top 10 at Sonoma, and would have been in line for right around a top 5 even at Road America, the way things were trending there at the end. So Alex Bowman, very consistent so far this season. The Hendrick Powers looked very good on the road courses as well. 3 usages left. Don't feel too badly about that. So Alex Bowman will be my 5th entry to the lineup here.
Okay. Okay. I like to swing on Bowman. I didn't have him in my lineup. So
Interesting. I thought you would have.
no,
A little trigger shy after what happened last time.
no, I think I have better options elsewhere than Bowman here this weekend.
Interesting. Okay.
And it's his Hendrick teammate for this next one. Kyle Larson is in the lineup at Watkins Glen. Okay. I feel really, really good about Kyle Larson this weekend, namely because this is a track he's done.
How many usages?
Two. I've got two left. Okay. So hence here and Michigan. That's where I'm going to be using him. There's no beat around the bush with that. But average finish in his career here, 13.67. And I think this is an important note. The last time the Cup Series was here at Watkins Glen, this was also Kyle Larson's last time here as well. He did not miss a race last season. He's on a similar playing field and the same playing field as everybody else in the field. When it comes to this track with the last time the sport was here. Average finish, like I said, 13.67 in his career, 3 top 10s, 6 laps led. He starts 4th, has done very, very well on the road courses so far this season in terms of performance, of course, winning at Sonoma. And I think this is the comparable for me, Sonoma and Watkins Glen. Sonoma, a very good qualifier there. Put the race together, did a full 60-point swing there at Sonoma. This is a place he qualifies very well at as well. I think he's going to put the whole race together. I don't think it's going to be 60 points, but I think it's going to be a very, very good weekend for Kyle Larson. And in his rookie season, he finished inside the top 5 here. So this has been a track from the very beginning, back in 2014, a track that he has had very good success at, no matter what kind of level he's at in his career in the Cup Series. So feel really good about him. 9th best average finish amongst active drivers as well. So considering his performance so far this season, I feel like I have to play him here. And I've got 2 usages left. I'm not really worried about that. I don't think I'll use him at Indy Road Course. If he doesn't do well here, then maybe I'll look at that. You never know. But I'm not leaving a usage on the table and waiting for something to happen. I'm pouncing on it. I'm getting a race, trying to get a fantasy victory here this weekend. And I think Kyle Larson is in good track position there to try and get himself in that race win category. Stage points don't really matter to him, or getting that extra bonus point. That race victory matters. So hopefully he gets within that top 5 range at the end of this one on Sunday. So that's 5. This is my worst. This is my least favorite selection of them all because I have to go first here for this last pick. But at least we're not going to have to worry about having the same kind of thing here in terms of our lineups with having all 6, because I didn't have Bowman in. So that feels like a little bit of a weight off my shoulders a little bit. But for the 6th selection here, there's a lot of different guys I feel like I could go with for it. I feel really solid about my top 5. Brad Keselowski, very good bet here, I think, this weekend. Has been an underrated road course racer. And at Watkins Glen, this is his best road course by far. This is a track that he finished 3 consecutive times back in the 2011 to 2013 seasons there. Been very, very consistent here over his entire career. And he's starting on pole on Sunday. So a nice little bet there. Denny Hamlin could be an interesting one. Got a limited usage situation, namely only having 1 usage left on Denny Hamlin right now, so I won't be going with him. Kurt Busch, this is another one for me here. I'm deciding between Brad Keselowski and Kurt Busch because they're both pretty compatible in terms of their success here at this track. They've had their highs and they've had their lows, and it's a difficult one to try and pinpoint which one would be best coming into this weekend. But looking off of previous numbers here and everything kind of going into one and the momentum the teams are on, I think I'm going to go with the Penske route. Brad Keselowski is going to be in my lineup as the 6th and final selection. I would love to go with Kurt Busch here this weekend, but the track position is just too good for me to deny here at Watkins Glen with Brad Keselowski. I don't know. I think that momentum that we saw at New Hampshire could be a good thing for him, finishing inside the top 5 there. Really needed something like that to kickstart the second half of the season for them. And this is a track that Penske's been pretty solid at over their tenure. So despite the lack of pace maybe on the road courses from Brad so far this season, I think they'll try and pick it up. A top 10 is definitely within a manageable expectation for that team this weekend, considering their previous results. But man, it's tough to turn down Kurt Busch here. I feel really good about him this weekend, but having that track position here, trying to get that early stage points if they go for that with Brad Keselowski could be key with winning fantasy this weekend. So he's my final entry. That's the 6th pick.
I will say that you put me in a little bit of a pickle here. I'm not going to lie. Not going to lie. I wanted to go with my last one for somebody that I felt good about maybe trying to get those stage points and getting big stage points with your lineup. I'm tempted to swing on another driver, even if the usage situation isn't how I'd want it to be.
Of course you are.
I am going to hold firm. I'm not going to pull a Lukas and switch my strategy because of something that you've done. I am going to stick with it. I will say that I did type it in just now that I was going to switch it to William Byron. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it as what I originally had. I was tempted to switch it to Byron, but I didn't want to have two guys that I had one usage left on going into this race and having to burn one if something went wrong for both of them. So for my final one here, it's a pretty big swing. I'm not going to lie. It's somebody that I actually haven't used at all this season in terms of usages. I've got 10 for 10 remaining.
I really hope I'm right here, I think.
But big fan of the form that they've been in recently. They don't got the pressure anymore of what they're doing next season. And 3 straight top 10s at road courses. Ross Chastain is in my lineup here. The one thing that gives me pause is that 2019 is the last time that we've been to Watkins Glen. And that means that Ross Chastain hasn't really had that top or better tier equipment to go to Watkins Glen. And he didn't go here in that short stint with Chip Ganassi Racing and Xfinity. Of course, didn't go here last year with Colleague Racing. And of course, didn't do it with Nice Motorsports because the Truck Series didn't go to Watkins Glen at that time. But Ross Chastain, over the last 3 road courses, if you exclude the Daytona road course at the beginning of the year where he got wrecked out by Ryan Blaney, was kind of still finding his footing there. The last 3 road courses, 36.67 points. Each of those races has been in very, very good form, has gotten some stage points as well. Most recently at Road America. Actually at Road America was the second highest point scoring driver that race. Big fan of Chip Ganassi's form recently. I like the announcement coming this weekend. He's got some very, very good passing numbers on road courses his entire Cup Series career, starting 12th, which is kind of in that kind of middle ground. But I'm going to be a believer of Ross Chastain this weekend. He's going to be my number 6 and trying to swing on some stage points there for Mr. Chastain.
Wow. I was not expecting that swing from you here this weekend, but I like it. I do like the swing on Ross Chastain. It's a good wave of momentum. I kind of got a little bit of a hint earlier on in the show. It seemed like you were kind of like looking at him as well. You kind of gave a little bit of a nice little hint, but yeah. It's a good one. I think he's an underrated play this weekend, and those damn underrated plays are usually the ones that where you get me. So I'm nervous, but yeah.
So just for example, if you remove the Daytona road course, because it was the beginning of the year, had the weird finish, everything like that, the top 5 point scorers on road courses this season: number 1, Kyle Larson; number 2, Chase Elliott; number 3, Kyle Busch; number 4, Joey Logano; and number 5, Ross Chastain. So and after that as well, after Chastain is Reddick and Kurt Busch as well. So those 3 have kind of been the more be good in top 10 potential, but also get those stage points. And that kind of shows up there being ahead of some guys like Denny Hamlin or Martin Truex Jr. that you would expect to be a little bit higher up.
Yeah, definitely. Oh boy, this is.
I do like your lineup though.
Thank you.
I didn't know that you had the second Kyle Larson usage left. I should have remembered that because, of course, I ended up using him in the Daytona 500 because of the randomizer, and it actually worked out well because I did win that. Thank you very much. But
yeah, everybody was out from me on lap 16, basically the big one. So
hate to see it, but yeah,
no, you don't.
Larson really does scare me this weekend. I will say that.
I really hope that something that scares you for once bites you in the ass, because I've been saving these damn usages and I want them to actually work out.
You've been saving too many of them. I won 12 damn straight.
That's the problem here. Like, I haven't decided when to pounce, and then when I have decided to pounce, they've just had an issue or something like that.
Your ideal scenario is just saving them to the end of the regular season and just having them.
I'm too much of a scaredy cat with usages. I've got a next season. I'm going more aggressive, I think, out of the gate. Okay, I can't beat around the bush. So.
And then you're going to get to the end of the regular season. You're going to have nothing.
Yeah. It's just, there's a no-win situation for me here.
Yeah,
but let's take a look at the honorable mentions and the stay away from here for Watkins Glen. I mentioned a couple of them already. Denny Hamlin, Kurt Busch. I still feel really good about those 2. I think even more so on Kurt Busch than I do for Denny Hamlin this weekend, but you never know on that front. Alex Bowman, of course, you've talked about him in your lineup as well, so don't need to really talk about him anymore, but definitely a good top 10, I would say, is on the cards. Back half of the top 10 for Alex Bowman, if I were to guess, but could be an interesting play there. Ryan Blaney was the one Penske car I did not put in my lineup this weekend. I think he could be an interesting play. I don't know what to expect from Blaney.
They just haven't been fast on road courses recently. I know. I think he's definitely got the potential to break through, but he's kind of at the point now where I need to see it before I believe it again on road courses. And I don't think it's a talent thing. I think it's a speed thing. Yeah. And I don't get why, because Joey Logano's had speed, so I don't know why the other two maybe
Todd Gordon as well has been a really good road course crew chief as well in his career.
It might be a set of things specifically for Blaney and what he likes, but you look at his career and there's been some really high moments. Like he won the first Roval race and of course the chaos at the end, but you had to be running third to win that race. And he was there, has had good results at Watkins Glen in the past, but he's a name I'm watching this weekend, because you would expect them to turn it around at some point on road courses, but they've been really, really bad.
Yeah, definitely. This next guy, I'm kind of surprised you don't have in your lineup. It's Christopher Bell. Because he finished well in the Xfinity Series when he was here. Of course, hasn't had a Cup Series start here, but this is a pretty decent track for him. He took to the road course very well here, back in his Xfinity Series days. He could be a really interesting play. Been on a nice swing of momentum here, and I think that'll do him very well coming down the stretch here. Really needs that going into the playoffs. Of course, has 2 second place finishes over the last 3 races as well, so been in good form. Adam Stevens and him are starting to click, so could be a nice one. Finished second, of course, at Road America, the last road course we were at as well. So interested to see Bell this weekend. He's definitely one to keep my eye on, because Adam Stevens has been so good here with Kyle Busch in terms of getting that setup correct. So let's see if they can get it out of the gate here with Christopher Bell. But another one here, when you're starting to talk about the no usage thing, I was like, oh man, is he going to go for a big swing here on Daniel Suarez? And because he's got really good numbers here, but you didn't. You went with Ross Chastain, which is probably the safer bet and the better bet. But Daniel Suarez, I'm going to throw him in here as an honorable mention, just because his numbers here are actually pretty damn solid in his Cup Series career. Has got an average finish of the last 2 races, specifically of 10.5. And I believe over his career, it's an average finish of 8th. So really good numbers for Daniel Suarez here so far in the Cup Series. So could an interesting candidate to keep your eye on there. An interesting maybe top 13 kind of bet for Suarez or something around that range could be within reach for Trackhouse, especially coming off of this announcement there with Ross Chastain. The momentum's running high with that team. They're starting to pick up some steam, and he's not going to make the playoffs unless there's some fluke win for him, but has been a very solid candidate so far to get the 13th to 18th place finishes so far this season. Next up, Ross Chastain. You light it out perfectly for yourself there, why he's an honorable mention. Got some really good results here over the past couple of road courses. So I'm a little bit nervous about that play. I don't know what to expect from him, but if he does turn it on and he does get in the top 10 and spice things up like Ross Chastain tends to do, I'm worried that one of my guys, the big heavy hitters, is going to be at the disappointing end of that exchange, if there is something like that, because he's not afraid to move anybody out of the way. So I would not be surprised if it's some sort of Kyle Larson or it's something different on the final lap and he gets bulldozed and Chastain ends up giving you the fantasy win in the week. But the next two, the final two for the honorable mentions, Tyler Reddick, just because of his previous road course success here and being in that really tight bubble race, he needs to get those stage points as much as he can. And I'm going to give a quick shout out to Eric Jones. This is his best road course by far. He's got really good numbers here. The best average finish amongst active drivers. I know it's only a really small scale, only 3 races for him in the Cup Series, but a 6.33 average finish so far in all JGR equipment and in the of course Furniture Row equipment is very, very good for Eric Jones so far in his career here at Watkins Glen. And let's not forget, he's running the Xfinity Series race this weekend. So I'm going to make sure that he gets a shout out on that front, because I love when guys run the Xfinity Series race. They usually perform in the Cup Series race. It is a proven fact, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm very happy to put Eric Jones as the last honorable mention. The stay away froms. This is an interesting one because it's a guy that you almost had in your lineup here. I'm putting William Byron in here as a stay away from because his road course results this year have been Shocking. It's been a really brutal stretch for him in 2021 for the road courses.
A lot of bad luck on the road courses.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm in a situation where I have one usage left on the 24 car, and this is not the place I feel where I can use them. And I think if you have 2-3 usages left on Byron, I think I'm a bit of a head scratcher on why you have that many usages left on him, given his performances so far. But if you have that many usages, play him. See what he can do this weekend. He's definitely worth it.
I'd say yes. If you've got one, really depends on who you have left. But he's got that high on potential, but just hasn't been able to put it together this year, whether from bad luck or poor form or anything like that. So
this is a track where he's done very well qualifying as well, single lap speed. So as he's kind of matured as a Cup Series driver over the past 2 seasons, he may have refined that racecraft a bit on the road courses where he can get that more consistent pace. And we'll see what happens with William Byron this weekend. He's a curious one, bit of a question mark surrounding him in terms of his performances. Went into this summer break here on a bit of a slump, no finishes inside that top 10 where he finished like 11 straight weeks. So it's trending downwards for Byron, but I'm sure they'll pick it up here in this final stretch before the playoffs begin. Austin Dillon. I mean, the reason
there really
I keep
isn't much to say.
Like, I know, but just... like if I have to mention him though, because he's in this really tight playoff bubble now. Like if Eric Almirola doesn't win at New Hampshire, I don't even mention here this weekend. But now that they have pressure on them, I think the advantage swings to Tyler Reddick because of his road course ability compared to the likes of Austin Dillon. So definitely an interesting battle there as the RCR teammates try and battle this out down the stretch here.
Over these next 2 weeks, like there could legitimately be like a 60-point swing, just given 100%. Austin Dillon and his lack of performance on road courses over his career versus some of those other bubble guys who have been strong at road courses in their careers. And the entire season, I've been a little bit wary of this second half of the regular season where we get a lot of road courses, which is something we haven't seen. And Austin Dillon potentially being in a tougher situation. Now he was in a better point situation going into this stretch than I thought he would be, but with a surprise winner like Almirola, suddenly he's on that bubble again. And he's going to need to just kind of hold serve here these next couple of weeks and then go to Michigan, have a good race, and then go to Daytona and kind of pull something out of a hat there. But definitely a name to watch for the bubble. Not necessarily a name to watch in terms of being in the top 10 conversation.
Absolutely not. And the final one, Kevin Harvick. He's not a road racer, and that's basically as plain as I can put it. This is just not a track for him. Despite him having decent success here in his career on road courses, I mean, he's got an average finish of 12.95 here. I just haven't seen the road course speed from them this season to think that that's even a worthy addition to your lineup here this weekend, considering the other options if you have the usages. So I can't put him in my lineup. He's nowhere near consideration for me, despite having a decent starting position where it is in 5th. I mean, that's good track position for him. Maybe he scrapes a couple of stage points here, but the big players are going to come to play at the end of this one. And I don't think Kevin Harvick is going to be in that mix of the big names at the front of this field come the checkered flag on Sunday. So those are the stay away froms. Those are the honorable mentions. Bonus picks. Boy, this is going to be interesting to see where we go on this front, but you lead us off. Top Chevrolet.
Yeah. I think the bonus picks are actually going to be kind of straightforward or chalky. I don't know, unless you go off the board a little bit, but I don't think there's any too big of surprises here, but I think
we'll have the manufacturers and everything correct. Like, I think that's going to be pretty much the same.
Chevrolet, Chase Elliott, not much to say else. You can look to a Kyle Larson or anything for value. I think that's an interesting swing, but I'm not going to bet against Chase Elliott at this track.
Nope, me neither. Chase Elliott, top Chevrolet. You know, this next one is just such a bugger. You know what I mean? Like, this guy drives me nuts with this category. I'm going to pick Joey Logano, and he's not going to be the top Ford finisher because I swear to God, like 90% of the times I do this, he's not the top Ford finisher. But given the options available in that Ford camp this weekend, I feel the most confident with him on a road course. The thing.
Yeah, like if it's not going to be him, who is it? Right? Like
something has to happen to Logano.
Case Briscoe? Like
maybe? But I don't think so.
Watkins Glen hasn't gone he was in the ARCA race, for crying out loud. Like, that's how much experience he has at this racetrack or something like. So no, I'm going Joey Logano for this one as well. He's just that much ahead of the rest of the Ford drivers in terms of like if Ryan Blaney had been in better form on road courses recently, I'd consider that as a swing, but like it's just like a chasm for myself in terms of the likelihood of top Ford finishers like Joey Logano and then everybody else. And so like if it was Joey Logano versus the rest of the Ford field, I'm still taking Joey Logano. So like, well, that's basically the best way to put it. Top Toyota is an interesting one. It comes down to Truex and Kyle Busch for myself, but I am going to take the swing on Kyle Busch for this one. Just the form for Truex just hasn't been there so far this season on the road courses to that same extent. Kyle Busch has had 3 very, very strong results in a row. So I'm going to take the swing on him here and try and really maximize it because maybe he doesn't get those stage points, but has the good finish. So maybe hoping for an extra 5 here with that.
Yeah, if I didn't make it clear enough earlier, I'm going with Kyle Busch here for top Toyota. This is a really good track for him, man. And I can't overstate that enough. So I feel really good about him getting in that mix for the victory this weekend. I hope he does, obviously, but he's going to be one to be reckoned with. I think once he gets up to the front of the field, as long as he keeps it clean, getting up to the field, he'll be up there in contention for this race victory. Winning manufacturer. I mean, I would love to go with something else. You know, I would love to be ballsy and I would love to go with something.
Let's just get through it.
Chevrolet. Because of the Chase Elliott pick. And it's crazy to think that he's so predictable, or it's so predictable that he could most likely win here this weekend, but that's just the scenario of it. That's just the realism of Chase Elliott dominating on road courses and not really giving anybody else a chance to be even competitive with him on many occasions. So winning manufacturer, Chevrolet.
Yep, Chevrolet and Hendrick for the organization. And it's Chase Elliott being the clear favorite, but it's not just that, having won the 2 races previously. It's Kyle Larson. It's even stretching to Alex Bowman or even William Byron, even them being long shots to win, but they're still in that conversation as being potential winners if you go down kind of past like the top 5 favorites or anything like that. Like there's a believable world where they win it. And it's not the case for some of these other manufacturers or organizations that have 4 cars. It's just clearly above the rest, whether it's the season as a whole, even though that form has dipped recently on road courses, anything like that. Chevy, Hendrick, easy as it is.
I would love to. I'm really debating here on whether I don't go Joe Gibbs, you know, because honestly,
are you really?
I'm serious because
I feel like you'd probably be gifting me 10 points.
I mean, I probably should just match you on it. So I'll match you on Hendrick, but that's a 50-50 for me here this weekend.
Really?
Yeah. I do think Chase Elliott is going to have some competition here this weekend, and it's going to come from the Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's going to be a cakewalk, but if I'm playing the odds games, looking at the 4 drivers that Hendrick has versus the 4 drivers that Joe Gibbs has, it's not even close for me. Even if Kyle Busch, I do think is going to have a good weekend.
Interesting. I think it's going to be. I think they're pretty comparable. Like
I think the main thing for me is that Kyle Busch isn't in my top 2 this weekend. I've got a different driver as my top 2.
Okay. Interesting on that front, but that'll do it for the bonus picks there that we have to do, except for the race winner, which we'll get to in a second here. Truck Series winner here this weekend. Regular season finale. Can somebody outside that playoff bubble upset the field? No. But I'm curious to see who comes in and maybe upsets the field if
they're doing an upset.
a one-off. I'm going to leave you AJ Allmendinger for this one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, I guess.
I think it's going to be a little bit too tough of a task to maybe get up there and win the Truck Series race. I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit off on that.
I think you're underestimating or overestimating starting position, but
no, it's not necessarily starting position. It's just the terms of the number of laps that they have to try and get to the front of the field there. And I think there's some pretty good road racers in the Truck Series where they could maybe do something with him. And of course, this is not a vehicle he's accustomed to in the trucks, but I definitely think he's going to be the favorite for the Xfinity Series race, which will probably take for the next pick. But for this one, I would love to go with. I'm going to go with Kaz Grala. Screw it. Let's just
Hell
try it.
yeah. Okay, I'm here for that.
I think that if anybody's going to maybe rival Allmendinger, it could be him. I know the equipment may just not be quite good enough there this weekend to compete with some of the top guys. Like, I think Ben Rhodes could be an interesting play this weekend for the race winner pick because of his equipment first off and his success on the road courses so far this season. But I'm going to go with Kaz Grala. This is a guy that's done very, very well in his Truck Series starts, Xfinity starts, and Cup Series start on the road courses. So no brainer for me to try and give him a shot here. No points on the line. Let's see what we can do with Kaz Grala in the O2 there.
So I am going to take AJ Allmendinger. And there's a couple reasons. Going to Watkins Glen, most of this field doesn't have experience here, and nobody has experience here with this vehicle as well. So that's a big factor for me. AJ Allmendinger maybe going somewhere else that the Truck Series has gone, and there's some other drivers there that have the experience on that track with this car. Maybe I would have been more apprehensive, but he's going in with as much experience in this vehicle at this track as everybody else. It is kind of funny to look, though, that his last Truck Series race was in the Craftsman Truck Series in 2008. So it's been a hot minute, to say the least. But for AJ here, I'm super, super pumped to see him in that 23 truck, just mainly to see what that truck actually has, because it's not been too hot this season with Chase Purdy there. Should be fun with Allmendinger filling in for that one. And again, that Truck Series has got a lot of fun entries this weekend. Definitely tune in to the Truck Series return to Watkins Glen on Saturday, because you've got some fun young names making either first starts or one of their first starts in the series. When you look at Corey Heim, Taylor Gray, those kind of guys, you've got the one-offs like Allmendinger and Grala, and then you've got the series regulars mixed in with the fact that if somebody below that cut line does go out and surprises and wins, all of a sudden you've got this crazy battle for that final playoff spot. So a lot of fun stuff to pay attention to for that Truck Series race. To the Xfinity Series, and I'm not going to take AJ Allmendinger for this one. I'm taking Austin Cindric.
Okay.
Last time at Watkins Glen, Austin Cindric was able to outbattle Allmendinger. Now Allmendinger full time, everything like that. But I do like Cindric this weekend. I will just add, while we're here, I'm very surprised that Kaulig didn't have a Cup Series car for Allmendinger this weekend, just given his success in the Cup Series at this track.
He could be in contention for
that was very strange
if they did.
Yeah, that's very strange to me. But for Xfinity here, I'm going to take Austin Cindric.
Okay, well, I'll take Allmendinger here since you took him for trucks. I'll take him here. Okay. I don't know. I think it's going to be the Cindric and Allmendinger show here. I don't think Ty Gibbs will get into the conversation, given that he finished third in the ARCA race earlier. So if he'd won that, you could probably put some consideration to it as well. Quick shout out to Ty Gibbs on securing Sport Clip sponsorship as well. Really desperate need of some sponsorship.
I'm not giving any shout outs to Ty Gibbs at the moment, but
why not?
It's just been a bit of a knob recently.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make that note because that was an interesting storyline as the season.
I don't think they're hurting for money.
Probably not, but it's good to see that they're giving him a shot there with Sport Clips. But Allmendinger, I don't need to get into that anymore. And I'm not going to give you suspense here for the Cup Series either. I'm going to take Chase Elliott. Please, for the love of God, let this be the place where I can just win a damn fantasy week. My God, I had the lineup I feel like I can win with. I have the race winner pick that I really want. I've got the bonus picks that I want.
To be fair, you have had the race winner pick you've wanted because you've had the first pick the last 12 races as well. So
yeah, I know. Yeah, thanks for that, Kyle. I forgot I'd lost 12 straight weeks. Thanks.
What I'll say is I think that you're going to win this weekend, so I got to get my jabs in while I can.
Yeah, and then it'll be lucky number 13 for you next week. So there we go. But Chase Elliott, clear-cut favorite here this weekend. If he doesn't win, I'm curious to see who will. I would argue it's Kyle Busch to win it. If it's going to be somebody other than him, could potentially be Kyle Larson, but I'd lean definitely Kyle Busch for this one if it's going to be somebody else. But Chase Elliott, it's a no-brainer. I can't let you have him for that extra 5 points for the bonus pick. So go for it. I
was thinking that you were going to go Kyle Busch for that one a little bit.
If I didn't have to worry about trying to win this weekend, I would. If I was like in a fringe situation here with trying to decide which one I would go with, where we're close on points in an overall battle, then yeah, I would probably just take the swing on Kyle Busch and see what I could get away with. But I have to try and win a week here. So I can't leave you Chase Elliott, and then that's the reason I lose. Like, it just makes no sense.
I mean, I wouldn't mind it. But I said earlier that Kyle Busch wasn't in my top 2. Do you think that was a smoke screen, or do you think that was legit?
I don't know. I think you're a pretty straight stand-up guy. So I'd say that was a bit of a truth. I don't know.
Okay. My race winner pick, not having the option for Chase Elliott, who I do think is the favorite going into the weekend, is Kyle Larson. I'm going with the other Hendrick driver for this one. I really was hoping that you weren't going to play him this weekend, because I do think that he's that number 2 to Chase Elliott this weekend. I do think that both of those guys have 60-point potential this weekend. So that scares me quite a bit, you having him in the lineup. Hoping the consistency between a Bowman, Chastain could potentially help me out there if something happens to maybe some of the guys that we share. But for Kyle Larson here, Sonoma was so good. And going into Watkins Glen here, again, as you mentioned earlier, it's not like he missed the race last year. He's going in with the same break as everybody else going into this track. So for Larson here, big fan of him on road courses. Previous to this season, he's been able to show the race pace in addition to kind of the short run speed as well. So Larson here, I think Hendrick's going to be the team to beat, and it's going to be because of Elliott and Larson at the front. I do think Kyle Busch will get in that conversation, maybe a little bit less so for like a Logano or Truex, just given a little bit of recent form, but I could see Logano maybe getting into that conversation, maybe a surprise driver mixed in as well. But Elliott and Larson, I think, are going to be the 2 at the front with Busch mixed in a little bit.
Yeah, that's the top 3 for me this weekend. I think Truex just hasn't quite shown it where he can be in that top 3 mix. I think he's an interesting guy. He could be a surprise guy where he falters this weekend. Like, it could be where he struggles and they don't quite have the setup for him to compete this weekend, and somebody else takes his place up there in that top 5 mix. So he's a bit of a question mark for me this weekend, but with 2 usages left, I just have to play him based off of previous history.
You have to put him in just in case he does do it. But
exactly. But that's the bonus picks and the everything else for our fantasy lineups this weekend. Quickly, Kyle, do you see any changes with somebody falling out of that bubble for the Truck Series if somebody has a freak accident, but do you think it's going to basically stay the same?
It's just going to be too hard pressed with the talent in that field that is already locked in, or kind of one-off drivers to go out there and be one of those guys below the cut line to go out and surprise and win. I think the most likely to do that is Tyler Ankrum, but even in the ARCA race that he was running as extra, they had issues in that race and weren't able to run the laps that they were hoping to in that one. So for Ankrum, I like his pace on road courses. I think he'll have a strong day, not strong enough to get into the playoffs though. He's got, I think, 44 points to make up to the cut line there. Stuart Friesen is a solid road course racer as well. They basically, those guys that are above the cut line just need to kind of run their own race, don't need to push it and do anything extra, and they'll basically be safe. And I think that's going to be the plan for those guys above the cut line. Very, very excited for Carson Hocevar, unless something goes drastically wrong and he somehow misses out on the playoffs. It's going to be awesome to see a nice motorsports truck and a young guy like that make the playoffs there. Chandler Smith also making the playoffs there likely, and then Stuart Friesen as well. So it's not the battle that we were maybe hoping for with a Knoxville and Watkins Glen last couple of races in the regular season, but
Knoxville,
anything's possible. Anything's possible. Ankrum can go out and win. Somebody else can go out and win. There can be a big crash on the opening turn 1 lap just because nobody knows what to expect there. All of a sudden, a couple of those guys finish with 1 point. Somebody has a good points day and anything can happen. So I don't think it's likely, but anything's possible.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in agreement with you there. I don't honestly want anything to happen here in this final race to jeopardize these guys. Just because they have such a large gap over everybody else, it would feel kind of like, man, you wonder what they could do in the playoffs, because I think they're all a lot of those guys could potentially go to that Final Four and maybe not win the championship, but they could fluke their way into a Final Four appearance, even if they just miss the cut here, because the Truck Series doesn't really have, it's not a large gap in terms of the playoff points that people have. Like, second place right now is Ben Rhodes with 21, and then it's 20 points.
It's almost
back
like
to
somebody's
the last
going
guy.
there stealing a bunch of those playoff points.
Love it. Gotta love it. I love it. In his own equipment. Don't you forget that. But it's going to be a fun weekend at Watkins Glen. Just happy that the series.
I'm just pumped to be back at Watkins. Hell, I watched the ARCA race, for crying out loud, and I know it was a better ARCA field because there was like your Ankrams, Briscoes, whoever making that spot start. Herbst was in there, Brandon Jones. Like, it was a very fleshed out ARCA field for the first time this year, so that was nice to see. But it's still an ARCA race, and I was watching it because it's Watkins Glen, man. So I'm so pumped for the trucks to be back there for the first time in ages. For NASCAR in general to be back there for the first time in 2 years. One of my favorite tracks, if not my favorite track on the circuit. So pumped for this weekend.
Wow, that's a big statement. I didn't know it was that high on your list, but it's definitely
it's like top 3 minimum.
Yeah, I think I'd have to do a proper list of it. I rank everything else. I'm surprised I don't really have a proper ranking of NASCAR tracks, but one last thing to conclude the episode. It's not on NASCAR. It's going to be the doubleheader on Sunday with IndyCar. The Music City GP is on Sunday to lead it off on NBC. So a big weekend there for motorsports on the Sunday, of course, making its debut. They've had practice earlier today at the time we're recording this, and there were some big incidents. There were some problems for, I believe it was Connor Daly and then Pato O'Ward. They both had issues in practice, resulting in major damage to their cars, which is going to be quite the task for the teams overnight to try and fix those cars. But your expectations coming into this weekend, we've seen the layout a little bit. It's pretty tight. It's a very tricky street course, lots of bumps with the bridge and the transitional pieces there. It's going to be a very, very difficult race on the drivers and their endurance and just their basically their entire practice of just trying to get some results here this weekend at a very difficult track, like I said. So expectations, what are you thinking here coming into this weekend? Your initial thoughts as well on the track, at seeing cars on track for the first time.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. Again, this is a big market that IndyCar is going to. It's a big market for motorsports to potentially break into. Everything looks very good from a fan perspective going into this weekend. Lots of interest in this race. They
promoted the hell out of it.
Yeah, so very much looking forward to this one on Sunday. And I think we're going to get some really, really cool scenic shots and whatnot of the bridge and everything like that. Hope everything is good in terms of safety and everything like that. First time going to a street circuit is always kind of a little bit questionable, but they haven't shied away from putting the money into the circuit as well. The circuit and organizers have paid for certain things to be done to the actual road surface to make it safer for these cars and things like that in terms of transitions on the bridge and stuff like that. So they haven't shied away from the cost or anything like that. It's a very safe circuit, the way that they have things organized. Of course, the bridge and everything like that is always going to be a little bit hairy just because you never know. But I'm excited for this weekend. Colton Herta looks strong in practice. I don't know if that'll translate to the race. I hope Joseph Newgarden does well, just for one, the championship battle, have another guy get up there, but also being his first kind of hometown race as well. So I'm glad we're mentioning it here because this is going to be a really fun one. And kind of with this as well, the success in IndyCar here for Nashville will lend more towards Nashville Fairgrounds getting more traction and everything like that. So it's mutually beneficial for everybody in motorsports for this to go well.
Definitely. Lee Diffie will not be on the call because he's in Tokyo right now. So I think Dave Birds is going to be on the call for the IndyCar race this weekend. I don't know if Rick Allen's still in Tokyo for his job, but honestly, hopefully he's not. Or hopefully he is.
I know they're doing the
radio style.
The radio style. So I don't know if he's back, to be honest. I don't truthfully, obviously we don't have NBC coverage here in Canada for the Olympics and stuff. We have the actually good coverage on CBC where we don't have to wait for it to be broadcast on delay and stuff. We can actually watch the events live. But I don't know what events they were doing. So I don't know if he's back yet.
Who cares? Honestly, it's probably better without him. But I'm looking forward to this week.
If they're doing the radio style.
Okay, we hear less of him. that's true. It's it's short in spurts. He has to be very quick.
You don't
with
want
his
an
words.
aggressive goes around again?
Oh, buddy, don't even get me started on that call. Oh my God. But yeah, I think that'll do it for today's episode. Good to be
going
back.
Off the rails on sport media stuff at the end of a show. No way.
No way. You don't get into that stuff at all.
Never.
But yeah, like I said, good to be back. It's just welcome to be back at Watkins Glen this weekend and everything. There's just going to be so much fun stuff here. NASCAR going into its final stages of the regular season. So the intensity is bound to wrap up IndyCar going to a track for the first time in Nashville. So lots of cool things happening this weekend.
So and obviously Saturday is going to be packed with the 2 NASCAR races as well, but I'd say qualifying for IndyCar as well on Saturday is going to be very, very interesting as well.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to watch much of it on the Saturday this weekend, but I'll try and tune in where I can. But the big one, Sunday ones, those are going to be very, very fun to watch, and we'll see what happens. But make sure to follow us on Instagram at The Green Flag Pod, as well as Twitter at The Green Flag Pod. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. We'd really, really appreciate it. As I prefaced off the top of the show, this has been an incredible couple of months here for us on the channel in terms of growth. So thank you all so much for your support, and we'll continue to keep the content coming for you guys as motorsports comes thick and fast in the final summer months here and into the fall as well. But we'll also leave a link to the NASCAR on TSN Twitter account that'll be in the description as well. So give that a follow for all the Canadian NASCAR fans or even American NASCAR fans. That's going to be some good stuff on my end because, you know, everything I do is spectacular for NASCAR and TSN. I'm just kidding. But it's going to be a fun weekend ahead.
Everything that doesn't involve Kyle Busch is pretty good, I'll say.
Don't tell me that the clip, the fact that I clipped his interview for the New Hampshire one, that wasn't good. Come on, that was good. Come on, that was good stuff.
No, I'm not going to give you any props. No.
All right, fine. Nope. We'll take that. Just know that when the camera turns off, he's probably going to give me some props. But all righty. But for this episode, I'm Lukas Wacker. He's been Kyle Cushman signing off for now. We will talk to you next week to get you previewed for the Indianapolis Road Course or maybe our F1 midseason silly predictions. I don't know, but we'll talk to you very, very soon. Enjoy the racing this weekend, everybody.